recognizes Mr. Mfume from Maryland.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. My thanks to the witnesses who are here today. I want to just say a couple of things that are quite obvious and then turn the attention a bit to clinical trials. Dr. Kessler, I'm going to start by saying I'm going to end with you because I found your comments to be chilling and to be a real warning to where we are and where we are headed if we do not heed the fact that we are making big mistakes right now, every day, as we dismantle the Food and Drug Administration. But before I do that, let me just state the obvious, and that is that everyone, I think, wants to protect the health of all Americans, at least everybody should. And everybody wants to root out illicit products that always find their way into our markets. And that's why ensuring the health of the FDA is so vital to this country. It's got to have the resources to protect all of us, regardless of race, ethnicity, sex, or any other designation. It's critical to public health. Since the FDA Commissioner McCary was sworn into service on April 1st, Secretary Kennedy and he have pushed out and fired, has been stated, over 4,000 federal employees at FDA. And just last week, more than 800 staff at FDA's Center for Drug Evaluation and Research were also fired. That center in particular is responsible for approving and monitoring new medications that come onto the market for side effects and for updating drug warning labels accordingly. Those fired workers, as has been stated earlier, are some of the nation's best and brightest scientists in charge of ensuring our supply of infant formula to make sure that it's safe, our medications for our family members and grandparents, food for all of us, and many, many ways the highest quality of food safety that we can expect in this country. So to have trust in the FDA, its decisions, and its ability to ensure effectiveness of the drugs that are approved, that requires research. It requires clinical trials, and those trials must include all American groups that may have need for the treatment. So effectiveness and safety cannot be ensured to all without the inclusion of all Americans in those clinical trials, which is why I'm particularly disturbed that these mass firings at our nation's health agencies, in addition to these anti-DEI efforts and similar rhetoric across this administration, will make improving the overall health of Americans much, much more difficult. So it was unfortunate to see that the FDA removed previously issued draft guidance on diversity in clinical trials from its website, as if to suggest that disease is racially monolithic. Clinical trials refute that. Clinical trials, when they are done correctly and with diverse participants, give us the ability over and over again to produce the best medications and to chart out the best courses. In this Congress, we passed several years ago something known as the Henrietta Lacks Enhancing Cancer Research Act in January of 2021. Many of you will remember this was initially led by the former chairman of this committee, the late Elijah Cummings. And this very committee listened to testimony about why it was important, and it was many of you on this committee that joined me and others on the floor to argue for its passage, and it was indeed passed. Mrs. Henrietta Lacks, in her extraordinary story of her HeLa cells, which were alive many, many years after her physical death, have been very instructive in terms of finding a way to create cures for diseases. Jonas Salk will tell you that before he was able to finalize the polio vaccine, he had it tested against her cells long after her death to make sure that it was, in fact, effective. It's been effective in HPV vaccines, and it's been effective in helping the mapping of human genomes. So we don't want to go back to the days prior to Mrs. Lacks when no one wanted to talk about diversity in clinical trials. And we don't want to stay where we are, where we're erasing any allusion to diversity in those trials from the website of the FDA. I just don't understand it at all. I want to, if I might, just get your opinion, those of you who are here right now, as to whether or not you think that removing diversity from clinical trials helps the American public or advances medical science. Dr. Kessler.
It's absolutely essential that our clinical trials be done in a diverse population. There is great variability of biological response. I'm humbled when I look at medicines and how variable they respond in different people. It's just the nature of biology. We work very hard, the pharmaceutical industry, FDA, the universities, to make sure that clinical trials are increasingly representative and diverse. If we want to understand how medicines work, if we want safe and effective medicines, clinical trials require a representative and diverse population.
Mr. Chairman, if I might have an additional 15 seconds, I'd like to ask unanimous consent that we enter into the record the GEO report to congressional committees 2 years ago entitled Cancer Clinical Trials.
Without objection, so ordered.
I'd like to ask unanimous consent that we enter into the record Public Law 116291, which many of the members of this committee voted in favor of, that created this whole notion of more diverse clinical trials, particularly in cancer research.
Without objection, so ordered.
And I'd like to ask unanimous consent to enter into the record clinical research entitled Genetic Variant and Cardiac Remodeling, Injury, and Heart Failure Risk in Black Adults.
Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you. I yield back.